Hey guys, so in class on Thursday of last week we started talking about functions and function operations. Actually, we've talked about functions before, but this is the first time that we're talking about operations on functions. So you should have this sheet that I gave you last week, and I think we started number 1. I can't remember if we finished or not, so I'm going to start it again. So we have two functions here. One is called g of n. That indicates that the variable that the function is written in is in terms of n. Right, so this is a function called g. This is right now just telling us that the function is written in terms of n. Most of the times we see functions that are written in terms of x, like this one, so that the variable that the equation is written in is x, and so then it's called f. That's the name of the function, and it tells us that the variable it's written in is x. All right, but for some reason they used n this time, so we have two functions, g of n and h of n, and both of these functions, in order for us to do operations on them, they both need to be written in the same variable. You wouldn't see a g of x and an h of n and have them ask us to do something that they're getting ready to ask us to do. So these should always be the same. Okay, so it says here f times g, g times h of 1. That's how we read that. G times h, and then whatever comes after it, whether it be a number or a variable, we say of 1. All right, in this case, of 1. All right, so what this is saying to us, again, in this shorthand notation, is in real life, what they're saying is g of 1 times h of 1. Let me get rid of this scratch work right here. All right, g of 1 times h of 1. And if you remember from previous conversations, g of 1 means they want you to plug 1 in the position of the variable. So again, this just means that the variable was n. They want us to plug 1 in everywhere we see an n. So let's do that. So we would do 1 squared plus 4 plus 2. And then again, this is times 1. All right, and then they want us to multiply that by h of 1, which means that we go to h and we plug a 1 in everywhere we see that. So we would do negative 3 times 1 plus 2. So again, just notice that every place I put a 1 was someplace that I saw an n before. Okay, now we're going to use order of operations, and we're going to go through each of these parentheses and do what we would normally do in order of operations. So inside this parentheses, it tells us to do 1 squared, which is 1, plus 4 plus 2 times 1, which is 2. And then in this one, negative 3 times 1, which is negative 3, plus 2. Then we still do whatever inside the parentheses. So here it's 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7. And then negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. And so we end up with negative 7 as our answer, right? So g times h of 1 or g of 1 times h of 1 is negative 7. All right, let's try the next one. All right, so again, we have f of x, which is 4x minus 3. We have g of x, which is x cubed plus 2x. And what they're asking us here is they're saying find f minus g of 4. Again, that shorthand notation, really what it means is find f of 4 minus g of 4. Right, so really what they're doing is just saving themselves from writing the 4 twice when they write it this way. But again, I think this is a little bit more intuitive. So if you want to just change this into something that makes more sense to you, then go ahead and do that. If you look at that and you're like, yeah, I can see that that's f of 4 minus g of 4, then you can just leave it like that. Okay, so then f of 4, that means take whatever our variable was, in this case it was x, and replace it with a 4 in f. Right, so that's going to be 4 for the coefficient of 4 times the 4 that they're telling us to replace it with, minus 3. So this was our x, and we just replaced it with 4. And then it's asking us to subtract g of 4. Now, because g has 2 terms, we have to put a parenthesis here to remember to subtract the whole thing. So the first thing it's doing is saying x cubed. Now again, we're replacing x with 4, so this is 4 cubed plus 2 times 4. Again, 2 times x, 2 times 4. All right. I'm going to do this stuff first, if possible. So 4 times 4 is 16, minus that 3, minus, now within the parentheses, we do our exponent first, 4 cubed That's 64 plus 8. All right, 16 minus 3, that gives us 13 minus, let's keep simplifying here, 64 plus 8 is 72. So it's 13 minus 72, which is negative 9, 72. Sorry, not negative 9, duh. Yeah, 59. Negative 59. All right, so again, f of 4 minus g of 4 is negative 59. Okay, let's do one more of these together, and then I'm going to ask you to stop and try a couple on your own. So here it's h plus g of 10. All right, so given what we've done in the last two problems where we did g times h of 1, and that turned out to be g of 1 times h of 1, and f minus g of 4, that turned out to be f of 4 minus g of 4. What do you think this should be? All right, if you said that you thought it was going to be h of 10 plus g of 10, you would be right. All right, so again, this is saying that we take h and replace whatever variable we have in there. In this case, it's x. Replace that with a 10. So this is going to be 3 times 10. Again, 3 times x. We replace x with the 10 plus 3. And then plus, now since there's more than one term in this g, but since it's following a plus, we don't need to put parentheses. So let's just go and put things in here. This is a negative 4 times, in place of x, we're going to write 10 plus 1. Okay, then let's just go through and do our order of operations. So first we would do multiply. That would give us 13 plus 3. I'm sorry, 13 plus 3. 30 plus 3. All right, then plus, and next we would do this multiplication, so negative 40 plus 1. Right, now since we have all add, we can just add any way we want. So I'm going to do the positive 30 and the negative 40. That's going to give me a negative 10 plus 3 plus 1. All right, and that will give me a negative 6. All right, the 3 and 1 is 4, plus the negative 10 is negative 6. All right, so h plus g of 10, or in other words, h of 10 plus g of 10 is negative 6. All right, so how about you pause the video for a minute, and I want you to do problems 4 and 6. Well, let's do 4, 5, and 6. Actually, do 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, what you'll notice in this one in particular is instead of writing it the way that they did up here in problem 2 with the subtraction, they actually wrote it the way that we have been writing it. So instead of writing it as g minus h of 3, they've done that step for us and written it as g of 3 minus h of 3. All right, so take a minute, go ahead and do 4, 5, 6, and 7, and come back when you're done, and I will show you the answers. Okay, so hopefully for number 4, you saw that as division, and this is the first one that we've done that's a division. So this should have been g of 3 divided by h, oh no, f of 3. All right, g of 3 divided by f of 3. And again, here it was the variable was a, so what it's asking us to do is replace everywhere we see an a with a 3 in our function g, and do the same thing in our function f. All right, so we would have 3 times, and then what we're replacing a with is 3 plus 2. And then f, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to replace a with a 3, so we get 2 times 3 minus 4. Up top, we get 9 plus 2 is 11, and in the bottom, 6 minus 4 is 2, and so we get it's 11 halves. Right, number 5, again, they did a little bit of the work for us here, where they already wrote it this way. So g of 3, that would be 2 times 3 minus 5, minus, hopefully you remember to put that parentheses around there after the minus sign. So then it's 4 times 3 minus 5, no, plus 5. Right, that's 6 minus 5 minus, and in parentheses we're going to get 12 plus 5. 6 minus 5 is 1 minus, and then in parentheses 12 plus 5 is 17. So you should have gotten negative 16. Whoops, negative 16 is your answer. Now that looks like positive 16. Okay, and number 6, g times h of negative 4, you should have written that as g of negative 4 times h of negative 4. Again, if you're looking at that and you see this without having to write it down, that's fine. You don't have to write it down. All right, so g of negative 4, that would be 2 times negative 4 minus 1. And then this would be times 3 times negative 4 minus 3. This gives us negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9. And then in parentheses here, that's negative 12 minus 3 is negative 15. And 9 times 15, 9, 5, carry the 4, should be positive 135. I'd left my answer key at home, so if I make any mistakes, I'm sorry about that. Let me just double check that again. Negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9, negative 12. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, and then number 7, same thing. G of negative 1 times h of negative 1. So g of negative 1 is negative 1 squared plus 3. And then we're multiplying that by 4 times negative 1 minus 3. Negative 1 squared is positive 1 plus 3 is 4. And then this is negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7. So you should have gotten negative 28. Okay, hopefully you're feeling okay so far. We're going to skip number 8 for a minute because I have a whole other worksheet on this. This is a different kind of operation. It's not addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. It's called function composition, so we're going to come back to that one in a little bit. But what I want you to see now is in problems 9 on, at least on this side, they don't give you something to fill in for x. All right, they just tell you to subtract f from g, but leave x alone. So again, this means g of x minus f of x. So there's no plugging in this time. It's already written as g of x. We don't have to plug in like a 2 or a negative 3 or something. We just do what it says. So this says to take g of x, which is negative x squared minus 1 minus 2x, and subtract from it f, which is x plus 5. And again, anytime you have a subtraction sign, don't forget to put what follows it in parentheses so that you're sure to distribute the negative to both terms. All right, so then this says, actually this first set is unnecessary. It's just this one that's the only one that's required. All right, so in this parentheses, I've got negative x squared. Now I'm going to look for x's because that's what should come next. So I have a negative 2x minus an x. That will give me a negative 3x. And then I have a negative 1 minus 5, which is going to give me a negative 6. And that would be our final answer. So notice how here we still get some sort of polynomial expression, whereas here we ended up with just a number as our answer. Okay, let's try this one then. So again, just like in problem 4, where it was the division, it's going to be the same thing, except now we're not replacing x with anything. We're just going to say this is f of x divided by g of x. All right, so f of x is 3x minus 1 divided by g of x, which is x squared minus x. Now, if this simplified, like if we could find a common factor that would cancel out of both, we definitely should do that. But in this case, 3x minus 1 does not factor. So it doesn't matter that this, we could take an x out of. Well, let's just do it so you could see what would happen. That 3x minus 1 would stay the same thing, and this would become x times x minus 1. So nothing in here cancels. Don't be tempted by this x minus 1 and say, oh, let me just cancel that out and leave the 3. Remember, you can't do that. It has to be exactly the same. So we could either leave it like this, knowing that even if we factor this, it's not going to simplify, or you could leave it like this and just say, see, I'm proving to you I tried it and it doesn't work. So either one of those is fine. Okay, let me just look really quick. I forget what's on the next page. Okay, I'm going to do one more of these, and then again, I'm going to stop and let you keep going with these. So if we did g of a minus f of a, right, that would just say negative 3a minus 3 minus a squared plus 5. Right, as I go through and I get ready to arrange it in the proper order, I notice this a squared in here, so I'm going to do a negative a squared, and then I'm going to take the minus 3a, and then I've got negative 3 minus 5, so negative 8. And that would be our final answer. Okay, so if you guys would just pause the video, and I want you to try problems 12 on the front side, and then how about we say 13 and 15. 12, 13, and 15. And when you finish those three, you can turn the video back on and I will tell you what you should have gotten. All right, for 12, this is h of t minus g of t. I'll go through it quickly because hopefully you already have it worked out. H of t is 2t plus 1 minus, and again, I can't emphasize this enough, make sure you put that parentheses after the minus sign so that everything that follows it gets the minus 2. So this is 2t minus 2t, so that would just cancel out. All right, and then 1 minus 2 would give us negative 1. All right, on the top of the next page, we've got number 13. This was f of x times g of x. All right, f of x is 2x cubed minus 5x squared times g of x, which is 2x minus 1. And again, we're just going to use that FOIL where each thing meets up with the other one. So we would get 4x to the 4th, that was these two, and then minus 2x cubed. And then we've got a minus 10x cubed, and then a plus 5x squared, which ends up 4x to the 4th minus 12x cubed plus 5x squared. And again, no factoring because we just had it factored. We wouldn't want to go back and do what we just had, so we're just going to leave it multiplied out like that. Okay, and then the last one that you had to do, this again is g of a over h of a. All right, so g of a is negative 3a squared minus a, and h of a is negative 2a minus 4. Again, you could try and factor that. They both do factor. In this one, I would factor out a negative 3a. That would be left with a plus 1. And here I could factor out a negative 2, and that would leave me with an a plus 2. Nothing cancels, so really either answer is fine. Had this had something that canceled, then I would definitely say just leave the answer as the one where you've canceled as much as possible, but either one of these would be fine. Okay, let's just do one more together, because if you'll notice down here when we get to problem 21, they start, actually no, we're not going to do 21 or 22. We will look at those on the next sheet. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off and start another video with a different sheet, which you should have had given out to you by now.